When we remember a time, we remember moments. A kaleidoscope of the sights, the sounds, the emotions that remind us of the way we were. Our world. It's about time. Tonight, speaking out in the summer of 1963, here are Linda Ellerbee and Ray Gandolf.
For the next hour, think of your television set as a time machine.
And clear your throat. Tonight we're going to speak out and sing along.
Welcome to the summer of 1963. With the wind at our back and the sun on our face, we are poetry in motion in a little deuce coupe. Or so some of us like to think. But now there is a poet who tells us the wind, it is a-changin', and speaking out as it's blowing in. What a time.
In the summer of 1963, President Kennedy made a triumphal visit to Europe, inspired a nuclear test ban treaty, and watched the South Vietnamese government of President Diem, whom he had supported, collapsing of its own corruption. And he was moved by circumstances to take the high moral ground in Black America's fight for equality. He wasn't quite ready to speak out that spring in May when the situation in Alabama got nasty.
Birmingham. Police used dogs and water hoses to turn back those who would exercise their civil rights as Americans. The rage within breaks out. Civil rights organizer Baird Rustin believes this is when America finally begins to wake up about what is going on. And the alarm clock is television.
Birmingham was, in a way, television's greatest hour in the United States because it brought into the living room, night after night, for a number of days, the brutality of maintaining segregation. It brought to the people of America the fact that we were, in fact, two nations, not one.
Senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall.
Singing is another way to speak out, and songwriters would come to be the poets of our social conscience, like Bob Dylan.
We'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing.
But it is another Dylan song that gets the attention of another singer, Peter Yarrow.
Albert Grossman, who was the manager of Peter, Paul and Mary and Bob Dylan, brought us a little record, a demo they called it, to the Gate of Horn where we were performing. The moment I heard the song, I said, that is it.
Peter, Paul and Mary released Blowin' in the Wind in June. It will become a million seller and an anthem of civil rights, especially to white liberals.
How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
But Alabama isn't listening to any wind but its own. And the president? He has not made civil rights a priority. Not yet. But he'll have to now. He will have little choice.
And I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
The new governor of Alabama, George Wallace, had come into office pledging to stand in the schoolhouse door in order to keep Alabama schools white.
In those days, if you had known the temper of the people, it was not against blacks, it was against the big omnipotent federal government usurpation of authority and taking away from the states.
This same hypocrisy has led to Alabama having the last totally segregated state university system in the country. But 2 black students have applied to summer school at the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa, and a federal judge has ruled in favor of admission. One of the students, James Hood. The other, Vivian Malone.
I was kind of readying myself, probably from a psychological point of view. I had, and to be quite frank about it, I did have some concerns and some apprehensions about could I make it there?
Wallace's answer is to reaffirm his promise to block the schoolhouse door with his own body.
Well, I believe that separation is good for the Negro citizen and the white citizen.
What you're looking at is rare, behind-the-scenes footage, shot in Alabama and in Washington. The President and the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy, direct the federal government to prepare for a showdown.
I thought that we'd come up with a plan about how we're going to handle the governor. I don't like the idea of picking him up.
It is so fantastic in this day and time to even be trying to handle a governor of a sovereign state just like a common lawbreaker.
Wallace is defying the law and is more concerned about protecting the university than protecting the law.
We're not going to let anybody desecrate this university. I just want you to know that's my orders. We're going to keep the peace.
And Deputy Attorney General Nicholas Katzenbach and federal marshals are there to see the federal government keeps its word to the two students.
The governor said he didn't want violence, and I had no reason to doubt his sincerity in saying he didn't want violence. At the same time, much of what he said and did would be calculated to get people very excited and very upset. So we simply didn't know.
People from the Justice Department prepare Hood and Malone for what will happen and how they should behave and dress.
You should dress as if you were going to church, for example, modestly, neatly, or like you're going to school the first day.
The students are ready. The university is ready. The campus is barricaded. State troopers enforce a curfew. Students take a pledge of nonviolence. Now, Robert Kennedy and Katzenbach have to deal with the cocky bantam governor and his cockamamie promise.
And you're going to have to play it a little bit by ear, but I wouldn't take him too, almost dismiss him as being rather a second-rate figure for you.
On the morning of June 11th, as he's driving the two students to school, Katzenbach gets a message from Bobby Kennedy. Call now.
So we stopped at a shopping center, and I got on a payphone and called him, collect. And he said, what are you going to say to the governor? And I said, I don't really know. I haven't written it out. I haven't had time to. And he said, well, the president wants you to make him look ridiculous. And I said, fine, have you got any ideas as to just how I do that? And he said, no, but that's what the president wants.
Ready or not, here they come.
You know, it's difficult, if you've never been through anything like that, to imagine when you walk on campus and you see the guards out there with their bayonets and the guns and all of this. There's just no way that I could imagine what that was going to be like. I really couldn't.
Wallace marches to the door to keep his promise. It's nearly 100 degrees out. Katzenbach has left the two students in the car to avoid a direct confrontation between them and Wallace.
Yeah, but is he talking directly to the governor, Katzenbach?
The unwelcomed, unwanted, unwarranted, and force-induced intrusion upon the campus of the University of Alabama today of the might of the central government offers frightful example of the oppression of the rights, privileges, and sovereignty of this state by officers of the federal government.
Governor, I'm not interested in a show. I don't know what the purpose of the show is. I am interested in the orders of these courts being enforced. That is my only responsibility here.
I found it annoying, very annoying, that the governor would stand there and refuse this, all for political purposes, would turn down two young students who qualified and were admitted to that university, and that just made me somewhat angry.
So far as going into University of Alabama, George Wallace knew we were going just as we did. So, you know, that's, for a while there, I thought, you know, surely he's not going to really do that, you know. But he actually physically carried out his pledge to do that.
The governor plays out his hand to the end. Robert Kennedy asks his brother, the president, to federalize the Alabama National Guard.
So will you issue the proclamation now and sign it? The executive order, yeah. Right now? Okay, okay.
By mid-afternoon, 100 National Guardsmen have arrived on campus. They're under the command of General Henry Graham.
There was some special forces units there on the campus. I took a platoon of them, and they were all dressed out in battle attire, and we started marching toward the registration hall. And when I was within about a block, I could see this enormous gathering of people, and I quickly realized that they were not demonstrators, but they were the media people. So I halted the platoon and took 2 sergeants, and we took off our steel helmets and put on the old soft caps, and we then walked up to the entry.
I wasn't there to cause trouble. I went ahead and did exactly what the General Graham said do. When they nationalized our National Guard, he came by and saluted and says, "It is my sad duty." And so I stepped aside.
Segregation forever has become an empty slogan at the University of Alabama. Black students are a fact. And while the iron is hot, President Kennedy decides to speak out to the nation on civil rights.
President Kennedy had been thinking and preparing most of the spring of 1963 that the time had come for him to take a bold stand on civil rights.
Special Counsel Ted Sorensen helped Kennedy write the speech.
But the stand taken by George Wallace at the University of Alabama proved to be the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back.
Kennedy says that racial discrimination is not only a legal issue, but is a matter of conscience as well.
We are confronted primarily with a moral issue. It is as old as the scriptures and is as clear as the American Constitution. The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. Whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated.
I watched President Kennedy's speech.
Myrlie Evers, wife of civil rights leader Medgar Evers.
I know that I felt a sense of relief and a sense of pride, and maybe for the first time in a very long time, feeling like I was an American.
We'll be demonstrating here until freedom comes to Negroes here in Jackson, Mississippi.
As the field director for the NAACP in Mississippi, Evers has been threatened, his house bombed. Less than 7 hours after President Kennedy makes his speech, Evers is shot in the back from ambush after he puts his car away in the garage. Less than an hour later, Medgar Evers is dead.
He spoke words of truth.
Medgar had said that if his dying would help remove the problem of racism and injustice and could motivate people to move forward for that, then if he would die, it would not be in vain.
He fought for freedom all of his life, but they laid Medgar Evers in his grave.
Medgar Evers, a World War II combat veteran, is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. In Jackson, Mississippi, 158 people are arrested for protesting his murder. 1 man is arrested for his murder. He will be tried twice. Both trials will end with a hung jury. Both juries will be all white. Come back to the summer of '63 when pop music speaks out and says little.
Our world continues with Speaking Out in the Summer 1963.
Boy, there is nothing better than a vacation to recharge the old batteries. And there's nothing better than Piedmont's low vacation fares to recharge the old wallet. We are talking big, big savings on your vacation, folks. And you better jump on these low fares before the fish start jumping, because I'll tell you the truth, with fares this low, I can't believe that more people aren't taking advantage of them. So call Piedmont Airlines or your travel agent today. I wish I could tell you where I was, but it's kind of a secret.
Eating on the run's got you tied in knots. Send the bubbles of Alka-Seltzer to the rescue, because speed is what you need to loosen the grip of your acid indigestion and heartburn with a headache fast. So when your stomach and head have gotten you tied up, Help undo it with the bubbles of Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer to the rescue.
Try new extra strength Alka-Seltzer. More of what you take Alka-Seltzer for.
Reach out. Hello? Hi, how's your new couch look? Oh, sis, I wish I knew. The lights just went out. Did you blow a fuse? Feels like the whole world did. Oh, I know how much you love the dark. Just 'cause I slept with a nightlight. Yeah, for 18 years. Hey, I could tell your favorite ghost story. Anything. Just keep talking.
When you reach out, we're there. AT&T.
Reach out and touch someone.
In millions of homes, millions of people aren't just brushing. They're using Listerine because it reduces plaque by up to 50% over brushing alone to fight plaque and bad breath. For better oral hygiene, millions use Listerine.
Poison ivy, insect bites. You can count on Caladril for relief. In fact, Caladril can help stop almost any itch, as long as you can reach it.
Of all leading brands, only Caladril contains Benadryl, the most recommended topical antihistamine for itch.
Friday, Webster struts his stuff. Then,
let's play some cards.
It's a full house with Susan Anton, Dr. Joyce Brothers, Edwin Newman, Bubba Smith, and Tony Danza.
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm late.
Mr. Belvedere returns, followed by Goldfinger.
Welcome back to June, July, and August of 1963. We were still buying American cars then, and more Americans were buying the Chevy Impala than any other make or model. Cost about $3,000. On the radio, $48 extra, $57 for push button. White folk singers were big that summer. Peter, Paul, and Mary, Dylan, Seeger, Baez, singing out against racial injustice. Nobody in the pop music mainstream was speaking out for or against much of anything. Rock and roll hadn't turned hard yet, let alone acid or heavy. But it was beginning to get just a little bit sassy.
Come on now, let's hear a roar. Sweetest sound, Leslie Gore.
Sassy, more like selfish, spoiled spunk. But then we were a spoiled generation, at least those of us who were white were. We agreed with Leslie Gore, who was still a high school student herself when It's My Party was released.
You talk about Johnny giving Judy his ring. I don't even know if trading rings is a custom among kids anymore, but it certainly was then. I chose songs, even though I came out of, I listened to a lot of jazz and I listened to a lot of wonderful lady singers. I had to relate to a lyric in order to be able to sing it, and I guess at 16 I related very strongly to It's My Party.
And It's My Party became the #1 pop song, a tiny pre-feminist squeak. That's what it was.
There was an attitude in songs that hadn't come up yet. In that particular song, it was an attitude of independence and even, gosh, if I want to be unhappy, that's my right and I will be. There was kind of a quasi-bitchiness about her thing, and I think for the most part we weren't used to hearing that in records. People like that attitude.
Lang pretty much sums up our uncomplicated concentration on boys. An uncomplicated basic girl group song. And Wish. Ellie Greenwich co-wrote it.
What happened was I was married to Jeff Barry, and unfortunately for songwriters, you tend to talk in titles very often. And one summer we were on the beach, and we talked in baby talk sometimes, but we were very young and innocent, I must say. And we said to one another, I really love you to be my baby. And I said, what a simple, straight-ahead title. We should really use that for something. I think the girl group sound was a sound of street innocence. There was a street, tough, yet innocent quality that went along with not only the sound of that record, but the way they looked. I mean, these girls, you might take them home to mother, but then again, maybe not.
On the West Coast, the music was al fresco and wet.
Wipe out.
100,000 Southern Californians went surfing on those summer weekends. Ho-daddies, hot dogs, and hedonists with their own music. The Beach Boys. All surf music sounded pretty much the same to the unpunctured eardrum. Even experts had trouble judging potential. Beach Boy Brian Wilson, a prolific writer, gave one song to a couple of high school buddies, Jan and Dean, to record. Dean Torrance didn't much like it.
He wrote about half of it, then decided that it wasn't exactly what he had in mind, wasn't as good as he thought it was going to be, so he thought, hey, I'll give it to my best friends, since it's kind of a pukey song anyway. Then he went on to finish Surfin' USA, which actually we wanted that one. If given our druthers, we tried to talk him into giving us Surfin' USA, but he kept that for himself. So he gave us Surf City and said, well, you know, this one's almost as good, so we said, okay.
Surf City became the first song of its ilk to reach #1 on the charts. It was a theme song for the young, tan, blonde creatures who infested the California beaches looking for the big wave.
Surf City came out, and Surfing USA, and Surfing Safari, and we couldn't even find a place to park, let alone once you parked and once you walked a couple of miles carrying your board, then you put it in the water, and then where'd you paddle to? There just wasn't any room. Literally, there were, on every wave, there were territorial wars going on in every wave.
Like any subculture, surfers had their own lingo. A beginner was a kook or a gremmy. A heavy was a really great wave. The boys wore baggies. The girls a kind of sedate bikini that wouldn't have raised an eyebrow on the Riviera. Ann Cole of California made them.
There were magazines that weren't even allowed to feature bikinis in them because they were considered indecent exposure. And the young people said, we're wearing bikinis. They're more fun, they're more freedom-loving, they allow our bodies to be exposed more, and there's nothing unnatural about the body, and why not let it all, you know, show? But when you look back on them and you see these bikinis suddenly today, they look like they could be called Mother Hubbards, if you will, because they really didn't look brief at all.
Well, along the coast past Malibu, I make it every day after school is through.
With a new fad, fadding right in its own backyard, Hollywood was quick to cash in. Beach Party, released that August, starred Frankie and Annette.
We've got an early start. We're gonna have a ball. We're gonna ride the surf. And that ain't all.
Frankie Avalon, Annette Funicello, they got together and it was just exactly the lifestyle, basically, the way it really was.
Dick Dale played the guitar in Beach Party.
And the kids saw that, and they said, you know, there's got to be something more to life than just you know, back over here and fighting and whatever we don't have. Look, they got a world of happiness, fun in the sun, and that's where the term came, fun in the sun.
The Grammys and the Hooters never go. Never go. I said the Grammys and the Hooters never go. Never go.
Riding off into the perpetual sunset of surfer heaven, Beach Boys and girls are unaware the next sound they hear blowing in the wind will come all the way from the proletarian backwaters of Liverpool, England. In a shrinking world, sound carries. Or as Bob Dylan says, used to go like that, now it goes like this.
Last night I said these words to my girl.
Generally, it's only in Europe that you hear that sound this summer. It's not the Beatles that will bring the president to Europe. Come back to Berlin.
Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, things go better with Coca-Cola, things go better with Coke. Life is much more fun when you're refreshed.
She knows exactly what I'm thinking. I don't have to say anything to her, and I know exactly what she's thinking. She gives me so much unconditional love that the least I can do is give her something good to eat. I feed her Cal-Can. That's her favorite food in the world. The minute I crack open that can, she's right there. It's so meaty. It's very nice looking. When I give her the plate, she's just like, oh, thank you, Megan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sometimes I feel like she just loves me because I feed her Cal-Can.
See if your cat prefers Cal-Can.
All right, where's Joey? He should be back by now.
Here he is.
Let me explain something, kid. The winner here can take home $500,000.
I know.
You win with one battery. That's not it.
Since 1971, more Indy winners have started with the same Sears Die Hard you can buy for your car than with any other battery in the world.
From beyond your imagination comes the future of photography. More than a camera, it's Canon EOS. EOS, the ultimate autofocus SLR.
So fast and easy.
High-performance autofocus with any lens. EOS, great shots were never.
So simple.
EOS, more than autofocus, more than ever, new from Canon.
She's from Western.
Of all the airline mergers, one really stands out because it's the people of Western joining the people of Delta. And when pros start working together, you know what you have? An all-star team. That's how the best get better.
This is going to be quite a team.
You're right.
The best get better. Delta Airlines.
Hello, Mother. Hello, Father. Here I am at Camp Granada.
Our world will be right back.
Entertaining. And they say we'll have some fun if it stops raining. I went hiking with Joe Spivey. He developed poison ivy.
The Triple Crown, horse racing's most coveted prize. And now, for the first time, a champion can claim a place in history and a $5 million jackpot. It all begins with the first jewel, the Kentucky Derby, live Saturday on ABC Sports.